Okay, listen, let's dive straight in. And the executive director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Sulemana Braimah, and a research fellow from the Hans Rothenberg Institute at the University of Hohenheim in Germany, Sulemana Issifu, are our guests. So, listen, I want to start with you, Sulemana Braimah. And I want to make a reference to the explanation given by the registrar. He says they're all Ghanaians. What's the big deal? What do you say to that?
Well, Kojo, thank you very much. I think I would start by asking you to get your people to go on the website of the Scholarship Secretariat and read what the mission statement of the Scholarship Secretariat says, and find out whether the mission says that it's there to provide resources to all Ghanaians or any Ghanaian who basically gets admission and then applies. Because I believe that all those who applied and couldn't get support are also Ghanaians. So by his argument, are we then saying that every Ghanaian would have gotten it? It is because it is known that it's absolutely impossible to support every Ghanaian who applies for the scholarship. That is why in their own mission, it is stated that the mission of the Scholarship Secretariat is to provide support to Ghanaians who are brilliant, but not only brilliant, but needy. And so for me, the fundamental criteria in assessing who should get a scholarship is this person, by all standards, a brilliant person? Is it established that this person is needy? If so, why not? So, for example, if you have somebody from the University of Cape Coast who makes, and Kojo, I mean, we've all been to the universities before. First of all, we know how how difficult it is to come out with first class. But you have somebody who not just first class, but had a CGPA, a grade point of 3.97 out of 4. 3.97 out of a possible 4. This person applies for scholarship, is denied. And then it takes a foreign university that recognizes the credence and the academic prowess of this person to say, look, hey, with this, we think that you have the talent, come for the scholarship, and so on. Meanwhile, and this person was looking for just some, what we would often say, a paltry amount of money. It doesn't happen. Now we are talking about somebody like Freddie Blaze's daughter. Somebody whose father, as at the time, was the chairman of the National New Patriotic Party, chairman of the Ghana National Petroleum Commission Board, somebody who had, said he was going to procure 275 buses, 1 bus per constituency, and he had that capacity to do that. Somebody whose mother is our ambassador to Germany. And then you say, oh, she's a Ghanaian and therefore is qualified. When your own mission says that you are looking for persons who are brilliant, not just brilliant, but also needy. And all the people that you were talking about. So quite clearly, it's a political abuse of the process. But you see, I am not surprised with his reactions. He's basically trivializing the whole thing. Because that is the environment that we are in now. People can just do anything with impunity because there's nobody who will take them on. This is an office a secretariat under the office of the president. And so for me, it's not surprising because under the presidency, anything goes. At worst, if anything at all, the president will come and clear you. That is what we are in. And the registrar of the secretariat knows this very well. So it is not surprising that after it being revealed that what has happened has been a complete political abuse, issues of chronism is what has happened. He basically says, oh, why are they not Ghanaian? And laughs over it and says, oh, why? What has happened? I mean, this peripheral thing that they have done. Because he knows that, in any case, nothing will happen because he's working under the office of the president. So, Kojo, for me, it's not surprising. But like I said, you go on the website of the Scholarship Secretariat and read their mission and contrast that with what he says, whether he is going by the mission of the Scholarship Secretariat. And as others have said, the law is very clear I believe that the Scholarship Secretariat gets the bulk of their funding from Get Fund. And the Get Fund Act makes it clear that you cannot use money from Get Fund to sponsor people to go and study outside. And yet, that is what has been happening. You talked about the double scholarships, and then he says, oh, you know, schools are run by academic year, so if he gets it 2020, 2021, or 2019, 2020 to complete a process, that is absolutely not what we are talking about. We are talking about a situation where somebody gets, you know, thousands of US dollars to complete a master's program in the US this year, and next year, the person gets another thousands of dollars to complete another master's program in the UK. It cannot be that Harvard and University of London or Harvard and Oxford, you know, are two schools running the same courses. So you start at Harvard and you come and finish at Oxford. It doesn't happen like that. And we are talking about a situation where you give a scholarship for master's program in the US this year, and the following year, the same person gets another scholarship for another program. When others are here and they are looking for 4,000 cedis, 3,000 cedis, 2,000 cedis, and they are being denied, even though they have the academic credentials, they are denied. And yet, others are getting 300,000, 400,000 cedis equivalent to pursue the same programs outside. Sometimes one person's scholarship is enough to fund about 60 students to pursue the same course here in Ghana. You give somebody, you know, funding for an MA program that can be done here in Ghana at a cost that the money that the individual is taking to do it in the UK or US can support about 60 students to do it here in Ghana. That is what we are talking about.
Yeah.
And yet he sees nothing wrong with it, because that is the system that we are in. People can just do anything, trivialize it. At worst, in the worst case scenario, the president will basically come and clear them. Since this started, we've not heard anything from the presidency. And again, it's not surprising, because that's a normal that we are in.
Yeah. I just found the mission statement of the Scholarship Secretariat on their website, scholarships.gov.gh. It says, our mission is to utilize government funds, Get Fund, and donor support for the provision of scholarships to brilliant but needy students and qualified workers at a minimum access cost for human resource development for the purpose of national growth and development. I want to bring in Sulemana Issifu. And I mean, Sulemana, every interaction with you, based on your extensive travel through Europe and your continued interaction with students who are either beneficiaries or supposed to be beneficiaries of this scholarship scheme, reveals that what we have discussed so far is merely the tip of the iceberg. What more is there, Mr. Issifu?
Yes, thank you, Kojo, and to your good morning to your panelists and to my brother Sulemana. I think today you are hosting the Sulemanes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So yes, and congratulations to the Fourth Estate for bringing this to the fore, because I have personally known very dirty and shady things about the Scholarship Secretariat, and I've been following it up. I wrote an article on it. I think earlier this year I saw Manas Azure mobilizing resources to assist one needy student, and that triggered me to write an article where I recounted some of the experiences I've had with people who have interfaced with the Scholarship Secretariat and the kinds of things that they told me. And yes, you are right, Kojo, with my travel experiences in Europe, and also very soon I would be going to the US as a visiting scholar, and I will still meet many Ghanaian students there, and they will tell me more stories about the Scholarship Secretariat. And in fact, post news file, I have received dozens of messages from people around the world who are telling me very harrowing things, and even telling me that what you said is just a scratch on the surface. It's also a scratch on the surface again. So the problem is quite enormous. And as I mentioned on Newsfile, and let's not kid ourselves, the folks at the Scholarship Secretariat are not stupid. Look, the Scholarship Secretariat is headed by a person who is an academic. He's a PhD holder, right? So the solutions that we proffer are things that are not new to him. He knows the best way to run the scholarship secretariat. He knows how to make value out of the meager resources that the state has and have decided to apportion some to his office. He knows all of this. But if he decides to do the right thing, or if the scholarship secretariat decides to do the right thing, many people who are there today who have built mansions as a result of merely distributing scholarships will not be able to build those mansions. So it is deliberate. Let's mismanage it so that we can use it for our ends or to achieve our own ends. Yes, for some of the harrowing things, if I tell you some of them, you will be shocked. So I mentioned the story of people, for example, who were put on the scholarship secretariat list of recipients. And they normally designate them as distressed students, quote and unquote, distressed students. And these distressed students, they are just spooks. They are ghosts. They don't exist. Some of them don't exist. And even with those who exist, when I say they don't exist, it means that either the person is not a student, and I've seen somebody who is not a student and has received funds from the scholarship secretariat, funds up to 10,000 euros. I know someone personally who is not a student who received this amount of money from the scholarship secretariat.
Wait,
and
so
I'm challenging
clarify,
the scholarship secretariat.
To clarify,
Yes.
these are people who are not students, they are not studying under any scholarship, but the scholarship secretariat, according to you, has created a group called distressed students, and they give this group money to help with their distress.
So there are two, right? There are two groups here. There are some who are students and have been designated as distressed students,
Right.
and there are some who are not students but still have been brought under the category of distressed students.
Right.
And I know one person at least who was not a student but received about 10,000 euros from the scholarship secretariat. And I'm challenging the secretariat. If they want to bring it on, I'm willing to face them on this matter. So there are, I know one person at least. So, I mean, when bringing this matter up, if, for example, there's a forensic audit, then we'll be able to trace all the monies. So, for example, if the scholarship secretariat will challenge me and we come before a properly constituted state institution, I will mention the name of the person and we'll go into the records of the scholarship secretariat, fish out the name of the person, and then the scholarship secretariat will tell us which university that person is. Right? So there's a category under the, how do I call it, the so-called distressed students who are not students at all. That is number one.
Okay.
And there are those who are students and
forgive me, it's important for me to state at this point, we haven't had the opportunity to independently verify this. By we, I mean Joy News. Joy hasn't had the opportunity to independently verify that particular claim that you just made. But please go on.
All right. Yeah, so Kojo, thank you for the disclaimer. So, and there's a group who are also called distressed students. And what happens is that they give them the money, but they go behind the scenes and take back the money and give them a percentage. Right? And there's a story of a student here in Germany who decided, so when they told him the deal, when they discussed the deal with him, he said, I'm not going to take the deal. So he rejected it. So we have stories of students who rejected it. And there are stories of those who accepted it in other countries where the monies were, so there's one person, for example, who withdrew money at a goal, chunk money about, so he was given 10,000 euros and he was supposed to pay back 8,000 and keep the 2,000. So he went to withdraw about 8,000 at a go. And because of this, the bank and the name of the bank, I would put it out maybe one day. So that, because this is in another country other than Germany. And the person withdrew the money and gave the intermediary of the scholarship secretariat this money. And because of this, it triggered internal, how do I call it, alerts within the bank, and his bank account was closed down. They wrote him a letter and closed down his bank account because there was suspicion of money laundering. So this is not something that, I mean, we are just saying or cooking them up. And the scholarship secretariat is fully aware of what I'm saying. They give monies to some students and they pass behind the doors and take the monies back. Kojo,
yeah, go ahead.
Listen, these people are telling us that they've offered scholarships to thousands and thousands of students and that the numbers that have been put out by Fourth Estate is insignificant. The question is, the number of students they've sponsored abroad, how many of them have they been able to redeem? So, for example, you have on the list and you want to use that list to, how do I call it, to dwindle or to make the figures that have been put out by Fourth Estate insignificant. But then the population that you have as recipient of scholarships, how many of them have you redeemed abroad? As I speak now, there are many students abroad who have, in fact, let me mention Hungary, for example. There are many students who are on the verge of being thrown out of their accommodations. I met students when I was a visiting scholar in the UK, in Scotland. I met students who were literally thrown out of their accommodations because they could not afford it. And you know, in the UK, you are allowed to work for just 20 hours. So they could not even work to pay for, to pay for the accommodation. And some of them were logged out of university services like access to library, access to the lecture hall. So the university, they have, they have a graduated system of retrieving their money. So if you don't pay at a particular time, they will log you out of a particular service. Now, if by time passes and you still don't pay, then they will increase or they will graduate the restriction. Then as time goes by, they will completely restrict you from, for example, entering the lecture halls, because in the UK you have to swipe to enter the lecture hall. So if you don't pay by a particular time, then you are completely logged out. And then they will go ahead to write you a letter that if you don't pay by a particular time, they are reporting you to the state office. And if they report you to the state office, you will be arrested or you will be deported. So look at the kind of harrowing situations that Ghanaians go through in these countries. And then you come and tell me that you've awarded 3,000 scholarships. When you know very well, in the Scholarship Secretariat, you know this very well, that there are many students that you have not redeemed their scholarships, and because of that, they are going through very troubling situations. And to make it even worse, there are students who also pay to get what they call to get what they call offer letters from the Scholarship Secretariat.
They pay who?
They pay bribes to the, let me be very categorical, they pay bribes to the Scholarship Secretariat to get offer letters, and I've received floods of messages regarding this matter. And in fact, so there are two groups here. There are people who wrote to me to tell me, and there are people that I met personally who told me they paid monies to the Scholarship Secretariat in order to get the letters from the Scholarship Secretariat. They paid monies to individuals. I mean, I cannot mention the names because, I mean, these people will come after you with a suit just to shut you up. So I'll not mention names, but they pay monies to officials at the Scholarship Secretariat to get what they call the offer letters. And the offer letters, they use it as just a bargaining chip to get visa. So the Scholarship Secretariat is not only involved in misappropriation of scholarships, they are also involved in visa racketeering. And they know very well that is the reason why. Don't be surprised when you see that people are being sponsored to go and do very funny courses. Don't be surprised. Some of them are just on the list just to give those people the cover of the state, political cover of the state. And then, but in real terms, these people are not going to receive any monies from the Scholarship Secretariat because these people have paid bribes to get their offer letters, and then the offer letters are then taken to the embassies, and then they are given visas. And because of this, the Scholarship Secretariat is being blacked out by many institutions across the world.
I was going to ask you that. How are the institutions reacting?
Yes. So, for example, in Belgium, I have a friend who told me, after I appeared on Newsfire, he called me and told me that he's a living example, that he got an offer from the Scholarship Secretariat, but universities in Belgium refused to accept it. So my point is that why do you degrade a state institution? Because we are members of a state to get protection from the state. So if your institutions begin to damage the country in this manner, bring international embarrassment and international damage to the reputation of your country, your state institutions will become worthless and you cannot use them for anything. So the Scholarship Secretariat, aside all the problems, they are also causing irreparable damage to the reputation of Ghana. And this must be a source of concern and a source of worry to any Ghanaian. And it is very sad and so annoying to hear the Secretariat boss trying to trivialize the matters that have been raised by Fourth Estate and by your media, right? The matters are so grave that if we don't take care, a time will come that even when the Scholarship Secretariat genuinely want to train people outside, the letters from the Scholarship Secretariat will not be valued. It will not be recognized. And then what are we going to do as Ghanaians, right? So, and Kojo, there is an aspect too. There's an aspect of students who go to abroad and they are sponsored by states. I can mention some of the courses. Some people are sponsored to do MSc marketing, MSc accounting, MSc public administration, MSc law, MSc procurement. Man, are you telling me these courses? GIMPA is doing chunks of these courses. But because, as I mentioned, the aim is visa racketeering, and they took advantage of the UK's open border policy to allow families to come in. They took advantage of that and just went in and sent in many people. And when these people complete, look, the foreign government is even holding the scholarship secretariat more accountable than Ghanaians. Why? Because when you complete, for example, in the UK, they will tell you that on record, you were sponsored by your government to come here, so we will not allow you to stay here. And if you want to stay here, you must bring a letter from your government proving that you've been relieved and that your obligation to your state is no longer needed. And so you can stay anywhere in the world and pursue your personal ambitions. And these letters, we call them the letters of consent. People are paying 3,000, 5,000 pounds to get these letters of consent. And when they get the letter of consent, now they are given what they call a graduate visa or job-seeking visa. And when they get these visas, they stay in the UK, and some of them, as I mentioned, become janitors, cleaners, caregivers, and a host of menial jobs. And because the scholarship secretary from the outset knew that these people, we are just pushing them in, there's no critical need for them, they will just give the consent letter as confettis and get monies back into their pockets. Because they know that, for example, do you think that if they had sponsored a heart surgeon to go, do you think they will give him the letter of consent? No, because they know the heart surgeon is needed in Ghana. But because they don't want to sponsor these critical human resource needs, they don't want to fill in these gaps, they will give, how do I call it, sponsorship to courses that are not needed, so that if they have to give you the letters of consent, it will not be difficult for them. Because, for example, as I mentioned, if you sent me out as an ecologist and you trained me to become an ecologist myself, you trained me to become an ecologist, and you know very well that in Ghana, we don't have enough ecologists. Do you think they would have easily given me a letter of consent and say, stay abroad and pursue your career? No. So they know the reason why they are doing this. So let us not kid ourselves that they are oblivious to the fact that, for example, there must be a law to regulate their activities. Why is Kingsley telling us today that we need a law? He has been in office for 7 years. If he's serious about what he's saying, why is he's just filibustering and gaslighting the situation? Why is he telling us today that we need a law? He has been in office for 7 years, and he knows the challenges that are in the scholarship secretariat. He knows the loopholes. And I say, Kojo, I say that no amount of law can cure a greedy mind. If you want bring all the laws in the world, a greedy mind will find his way around the law. And that is why even when the Get Fund law just gives a small window for sponsoring courses abroad, they use that as the main door to drain Ghana, because they're just pushing out the people out of Ghana, right? So no amount of law can cure the greedy mind. You need people with conscience, people who know that scholarships are for three major things. One, to fill in critical human resource gaps. Number two, to provide safety net for the poor. Number three, for political reasons. So for political reasons, you realize that there are countries around the world who are giving scholarships to foreign students. So you will be there, Russia will say, we are giving scholarships to foreign students from Ghana. Hungary will say, India will say, Malaysia will say. And these people, they are doing that to repair, to prop themselves up internationally. But Ghana, we've not gotten to that stage where we have enough resources to think about even sponsoring outsiders to come in just to get international applause. No, we've not reached that stage. We are still at the first two. That is filling critical human resource gaps, and number two, providing safety nets for the poor. Right. But then the Scholarship Secretariat has deliberately decided to mismanage the Secretariat purposely in order to achieve their personal, parochial, selfish interest. And they know what I'm talking about.
Sulemana, hold that thought. We're going to take some messages from our partners. You had the final point? Yeah, go ahead.
Lastly, I always say that the days when God used to crack the earth open and push people in, I'm sure most people who serve in the state, and when matters come up, they come to filibuster, they come to lie, they come to obfuscate the issues. God will have cracked the earth open and pushed them in, because they know they are lying. They know the truth. They know what we are saying is the truth, but they will deny it.
All right. We're going to take a few messages from our partners. When we come back, Sulemana, the two Sulemanas, Braimah and Issifu, are going to help us figure out the way forward. If the solution does not lie solely in the law, as Daniel Domelevu suggested, take them to court. If the solution doesn't lie there, if we have to just pray for people with conscience to take up these positions, can we really entrust the future of our human resource development to luck? We're talking about the potential crime scene that people are describing the scholarship secretariat as, suggesting all kinds of irregularities, to put it politely. Some of them documented, and highlighted by the Fourth Estate in a report that indicates that, among other things, some people are able to get 2 scholarships to study at 2 different universities in the same year. Not forgetting those who get scholarships, go off to study and never return. To this date, haven't come back. The idea of these scholarships being that you would develop your human resource and then come back to Ghana to use it for the benefit of the nation. But of course, the secretariat is the one that needs to come and answer these questions for us, come and explain these anomalies for us, including the new accusations. And you've heard some of them coming from Sulemana Issifu, who of course is a research fellow at the Hans Rothenburg Institute, University of Hohenheim in Germany. Sulemana Braimah has also been talking to us about how this even looks as a nation, assessing the response of the registrar of the Scholarship Secretariat. Sulemana Braimah, of course, is Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Now, we're going to get into solutions. But first, Samson Lardy Anyenini joins us. He, of course, is a private legal practitioner. He's the host of Newsfile here on Joy. And also, he had an interesting role to play when Daniel Domelevu audited the Get Fund scholarship schemes. Samson, good morning to you.
Morning, could you?
This thing, it just gets murkier by the day. It's sounding worse and worse for the people we have entrusted this all-important institution to. What would be your take on how this matter is unfolding?
Could you? I would think that in a decent democracy, a number of things would have happened by now, and you will not have the justifications we are being treated to in the manner we are being treated to them in the public. Either by now, the president would have kicked into action a number of things, or the Council of State, if they have been following, would have given an advice to the president that it is in the public interest for a committee of inquiry to be set up, or that Parliament would have, by a resolution, of course they will say they are on break now, let's hope that they have followed and they would do beyond the propaganda value that they may want to take from this. So pursuant to Chapter 23 of the Constitution, Article 278 more specifically, I believe that we are at a point in this matter where a commission of inquiry may be necessary, or at a lower level, a committee of inquiry will be necessary with the necessary people of the necessary expertise, and perhaps to give potential witnesses a certain indemnity, so they will come to the committee or commission to give their testimony without being afraid that they will be harmed, or they will be, as it were, dealt with in a manner that they will regret. So I believe that first steps, Kojo, if you have heard Dr. Matthew Poku Pempe in 2021 before the vetting committee, the appointments committee, repeat and insist that he will take the scholarship one more time if the opportunity availed itself. And that he's not the only one who received the scholarship for 3 weeks course at Harvard, which scholarship we calculated could be used to sponsor as many as 6 MPhil, students. That's the audit that Adjoa Safo and the rest of them, all of them ministers, all of them we know, we have an idea of their work and still benefited and justified it. But at the time he said, he knows even other members of parliament who also have accessed the scholarship, and therefore he's not alone, and any time he will take it again. It tells me that people who are leading are not interested in any solutions yet about this. I'll come to the specific issue of my client just briefly to conclude.
Yeah.
But I ask myself today, if Dr. Kingsley Agyeman is speaking to us, how much trust should I have in what he tells us? When they point out to him that somebody has received double scholarship and he says, it's possible they are twins, and it's not a question of double scholarship, I ask myself, should I be trusting such a public officer? Dr. Kingsley Agyeman, it takes, who in the lead up to their primaries, he's contesting in Ebuapa South.
That's right.
To replace Atakia, correct?
Yes, you're right.
It is him who was said, and they issued a statement to the public in that constituency, that he was subsidizing the cost of Kenke. So people could buy Kenke at 2 cedis instead of 5 cedis, to the benefit of all the constituents. I read a portion of that letter to you. It said, recognizing the importance of our local cuisine and the financial challenges faced by many in our constituency, Dr. Agyeman aims to subsidize the cost of a bag of maize from 800 Ghana cedis to 300 Ghana cedis. This significant reduction in the price will enable everyone in Ebuapa South to enjoy the satisfaction of consuming Kenke, regardless of their financial status. They said he believes firmly that no one should be deprived of the simple pleasures that our local cuisine brings, and is committed to making a positive impact on the lives of his constituents by ensuring that essential food items such as Kenke are accessible to all. This is done by this officer in our republic, an officer entrusted with public resources, an officer that by now should be answering questions: what is the source of the funding of the subsidization of the price of Kenke in his constituency? But you see, it gets worse. And as we speak, in the Juso constituency, there are people who have gone through vetting, and a party of the class of the NPP have passed a certain class of people. And they are telling us that when a FIFA does its inquiry and places a ban on somebody, it is inconsequential. It doesn't matter, because the court in Ghana has not found anybody guilty of anything. So when I asked Domlebo the question, and he says, let's go to court. And Issifu, who is joining with you, also said, yes, I'm interested. I want to join Domlebo for us to go to court. I paused to say, yes, I'm a lawyer. If people don't go to court, perhaps maybe my bread doesn't get, buttered properly. But why should I be interested in putting such a matter before a court and potentially maybe one judge? And that judge takes a decision that potentially may give cover to everybody else who is involved in a rot. Okay? Why should we do that? When we have a significant national issue, the first thing we run to is let's go to court. Why? We are discussing this underage marriage issue now. Everybody is talking law. The law says. Have anybody paused to ask themselves, if this girl was my child, will I be talking the law says, and the law perhaps does not criminalize this, the law does not prohibit it? If this were your daughter, how will you think? Let's begin to think this way. As you said this morning, rather than talking law, what is this? Now, Kojo, before the show on Saturday, I had invited people, if they had any experiences, encounters with the secretariat, they should share them with us. To tell you the truth, many have sent messages even before that. Many years ago, when the audit came, I got messages. I kept some of them. Some of those people have come back to me in my email after the Fourth Estate expose. Kojo, it's unimaginable, the things they talk about. It's unbelievable. So, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's explain. So, the Scholarship Secretariat, you will recognize an officer was on the show on Saturday, and we committed him to another, show on next Saturday.
Yeah.
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt to explain to us, like the question Sulemana Braimah has asked, how on earth that a man who can afford a bus for each constituency in this country, the chairman of GNPC board, his wife is a diplomat, how on earth does his daughter qualify for this scholarship? They must explain, but we must listen to them and get to appreciate what they are talking about. And a scholarship to train as a lawyer. In what kind of law? I asked him the question. So I asked him a number of questions. He actually didn't answer them. But it's okay. We have the opportunity to ask him further questions to explain the next time. So, Kojo, I will... the messages I received, some of them from senior people in this country today, senior lawyers, and the things they tell you about what they have become aware of. Their siblings or people they have gotten to know, people who came to make complaints to them, the things that have happened at the Scholarship Secretariat. If the president has heard what is going on, what the Fourth Estate has exposed, if the Council of State, who are supposed to be the conscience of the president, so to speak, and to advise him, who are supposed to be elderly people, if they have heard, this is not the time for them to behave like, it's normal, it's okay, we move on. The media will discuss 1 week and this will pass. They are supposed to be elders. Okay? If the members of parliament have heard the things that have been exposed, I would think that they represent the people and they will think for the good of the people. When the audit report came out, there were a number of people who contacted me. Of course, they couldn't pay me. So they wanted my services as a lawyer. Because their names were in the audit report as beneficiaries of scholarships with specific huge amounts in pounds and in dollars. But these people had actually been denied the scholarship.
Wow.
And 2-3 years later, their names are in the audit report. Kojo, do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, clearly. Yeah.
So we wrote to them, as first step processes that, any lawyer would do, to ask them to explain why our clients have their names on the audit, in the audit, as recipients or beneficiaries of funds, when in fact they were denied the scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw all their documentations, how they had been denied. What they did to us was simply write to us to acknowledge receipt of our letters and promise to investigate. We sent them reminders. After months, we are still where we are. They did absolutely nothing. We decided to escalate it a bit and wrote to the administrator of the GET Fund and copied the chairman, the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, the Director, Criminal Investigations Department, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and the Auditor General. And we had a reason for doing so, because there are specific legislations which were, as it were, violated in the process. If it is the case that in the auditing process, somebody gave the auditors false information, the law punishes it. So we copied the relevant places, knowing they will take the necessary actions. Then, if it is the case that the Section 33(1) of the Audit Service Act 2000 criminalizes the act of a person or an auditee who gives to the Auditor General any information which he knows to be false. She has reason to believe to be false, and yet they give them. And various other provisions we refer to.
Yeah.
As we said, that letter, I just pulled it up, is dated March 2, 2020. This was actually a petition to get funds to the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, the Criminal Investigations Department, the Auditor General, and the Attorney General. Absolutely nothing has been done.
Wow.
This is the country you find yourself in.
Wow, Samson, thank you for that update. Sulemana Braimah, honestly, at this point, even legal proceedings don't sound promising, do they? What really can be the solution to all this?
Well, first of all, I think that institutions exist to serve the interest of the public, the interest of the masses. Even if the courts make their decisions, they do so with the view that those decisions would help improve conditions for the masses. Now, people have said repeatedly that we are in a country where the future of the future generations, the future of our youth who are in the majority is completely being destroyed by the current leadership of our country. And it appears that even as we all see it happening, we have not been angry enough. We are not desirous to protect the future, our own future. And in fact, in some instances, those of us whose future is being destroyed ends up being complicit in the destruction process. I think we've gotten to a point where people must be bold, people must be courageous. We have people who are reaching out to us individually to talk about what they've gone through, the challenges they faced, how they were denied arbitrarily, and all of that. And sometimes I tell these people, why aren't you bold enough to come out? Yes, I can understand if you are going to indict somebody without evidence. But where you have evidence, such as bank transfer records, why are you not ready and willing to put those things out?
Because I think they are worried about complicity.
The work that is being done at the Media Foundation through the Fourth Estate, it's not an easy thing. You have people calling you. You have people that you respect requesting that maybe if you can help drop a name or drop a story. Samson, as he was speaking a while ago, has been defending us. In fact, as I speak to you today, Kojo, there is a court case today involving the fourth estate and the work that we've done. It's not an easy thing. It takes courage, it takes patriotism, it takes commitment to be able to stand up for certain principles. And that is what I think I would urge and encourage, especially the young people of this country, to begin to be bold, to assert their rights, and to demand that their future should not be destroyed. Because without that, look, the law courts will pronounce whatever judgment and nothing will happen. And that is the only way the people who have been mandated to protect our interests, the president, would begin to do the right thing. I don't think the president is somebody without conscience. I don't think that the president knows that what is happening is not wrong. He certainly knows that what is happening is absolutely wrong. But if the people are looking on and beneficiaries are persons within his own party, then what would he do? He just also looks on. If we are angry and we demonstrate that anger, and the president knows that we gave him that power and we expect him to exercise that power in our interest, the president will begin to act. So yes, the law courts can help sometimes, but it is not, for me, the absolute solution. The solution lies within us. Samson has appealed to the conscience of the members of the Council of State. These are people who are supposed to be advisors to the president. What are they doing? You have somebody do all these things to our public resources. And because you read the mandate, the mission of the Scholarship Secretariat, it is quite clear. It says persons who are brilliant but needy and workers. But you have people who are being given scholarships so that they can go and qualify to practice law in England and Wales. You have more than 140 of even just the 2 years, we've been able to track over 140 people who are supposedly scholarship beneficiaries who have never returned to this country. You have persons who are living in the UK for the last close to 10-15 years, and they are getting scholarships from Ghana to fund studies there, even as they are based there and working there. And yet, these revelations come out, and the person who is orchestrating all these things comes to almost talk as if nothing is happening. As I said before, it is because he knows nothing will happen to him. He is either doing that in concert with others who are much more powerful, who are supposed to be his bosses, and knows that, look, these guys, what they are doing, they are just joking, nothing will happen.
Wow.
I think we are not angry enough.
Not angry.
And we must get to the point. People talk about Senegal. Oh, Senegalese, they've done well. The youth have taken over. President Faye, 44 years. Sonko is also less than 50 years, and so on. Look, it didn't just come like that. Faye came from prison in just about two months or less than 2 months, and he is president today. He didn't just sit down and then fold his arms and then only contested and won. I think that we need to begin to act as citizens and demand the rights that we are entitled to.
Thank you, Suleiman. I want to get the final word from Sulemana Issifu, and we literally got about a minute to wrap this up. But it's in a continuation of what Sulemana Braimah is saying. If really the solution here is to make it a high-risk activity for these people to fleece us the way they are, then we definitely need the whistleblowers to step up. But some of them are complicit. They actually, the reason why they have this information is because they participated in the deception. How likely are we to have, these people step up and own up to what has happened?
Yes, Kojo, anyway, congratulations for your 10th anniversary.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is that those people, as you said, they may be complicit. So what we need to do is that there must be immediate forensic audit to trace all scholarships, where they ended, how much was given. If we find out people who were not deserving but received it, the state could actually turn those people into witnesses for the state. That is if we are interested in this matter.
Right.
So somebody may be complicit, but I know from law, I'm not a lawyer, but maybe Samson will help us with this, that a person who is even complicit in a crime could become a witness for the state in return for he being discharged or relieved of any criminal charges. So a forensic audit to trace all scholarships that have been given, and the forensic audit should include how much have been given out, who received it, did the person post-qualification integration analysis must be done. So those who received it, did they come back to Ghana? If they did not, what kind of works are they even doing abroad in the first place. So all these things must be done in the forensic audit. So I think that there must be a forensic audit going on now. It must be initiated immediately by the president. And number two, which maybe because of time I will not be able to mention most of it, but number two, which I think is also important, is that I think that a group of people should come together and mount an online platform for accountability where we allow people to go in and feed their how do I call it, their frustration with the scholarship or their encounters with the scholarship secretariat. And then if possible, we find lawyers to protect these people and collate all the evidence and bring it up before maybe Parliament or any maybe Shraj, because this also borders on administrative injustice. And I think somebody should also trigger a petition. So there must be a multiple and nimbling approach. So somebody's at Shraj, somebody is online collecting evidence. Some people are pushing the president to go for a forensic audit. And Kwadwo, frankly, the reason why the Scholarship Secretariat boss is still talking is that probably maybe, this investigation, if we had used a sting operation, the ANAS-like operation, I'm sure he will not be sitting there talking now.
Fair point. Sulemana Braimah and the Fourth Estate, I don't know if you've already done this, but if your list can be made searchable by the public so that people can go and check if they have had their scholarships refused, they can go and check to make sure their names are not still there as beneficiaries. That might be helpful as well. But I want to thank you both, Sulemana Braimah and Sulemana Issifu, as well as Samson, Lardy, and Anyenini, for your contributions this morning. We appreciate it very, very much.